Fellas, match week 18, 17, 16, we're all kind of at different points of the season. In the books, another non-really eventful weekend in the Premier League. The Premier League started out with a bang, and so, during these holiday periods, it's kind of been a little bit of a whimper, but we come to the conclusion of match week 18 towards 19. Tell us how we feeling. How we feeling as we sort of cross towards the midpoint of the season?
Yeah, there were a lot of 1-0s this week. I think it was disappointing for one, it was a low scoring game week. I think two, that even the week before that, there weren't many games. So I think this week we were promised lots of games and lots of goals. Plus, there weren't any big surprises as well. So I think that's what kind of detracted away from the excitement of this game week.
Jeff?
Yeah, there's 5 goals in that first. What was the first game of the game week?
Wolves WBA.
That was a banger. Loved that. It was like back and forward. One team, I think West Brom goes up, Wolves come back, and then I went down into the basement and then came back, and all of a sudden West Brom were 3-2 up, and I was like, what's going on here?
Were you punching your big Sam Allardyce bobblehead that you have just?
Well, I have actually got a punch bag. I got a heavy bag down there, and that is maybe a good idea. That's going to inspire me to get a good workout in. If I'm instead not a dartboard with Sam's face, but I put Sam's face on my heavy bag and that's the extra 10% I need.
That bag's definitely as heavy as Big Sam.
Yeah.
Can you imagine fighting Big Sam though? Anything more terrifying? He would rip us to pieces.
Yeah, I mean, you could punch him on the punching bag, but you want none of that smoke.
It would be
he's got a very similar complexion to Ric Flair, but way less charisma.
I just think, like Ric Flair, he'll do whatever he needs to win the fight.
Yeah.
Gnaw at your ankles, punch nether regions, pull hair, whatever Big Sam needs to do. Probably shank you a little bit, when there wasn't a need. We were just fists, and he just pulled out a knife. It's whatever he needs to do. Big Sam.
There's very little flair with Big Sam. I think
True.
That's the big difference.
True. Well, the other thing before we get into the football, though, that you kind of brought up my mind is that lack of goals, you can live with, but there's no emerging narratives. It feels like we're in a pause, that no team is separating himself. It's all just kind of a mishmash, and I'm a narrative guy, and I don't really know what the positive narratives on the Premier League. There's some teams sputtering. We will talk about that, but there's not any teams I would feel like are excelling. Nothing. There's no positive, or not even really any players that we can really point to. I mean, you can point to Son a little bit, but there's not any no one's capturing the narrative of this season.
I think the narrative definitely a match of the day, and I thought the same thing too was about the redemption arc. So you're seeing a lot of players that were frozen out who are coming back in. So they pointed at Shaw and Ndombele, and then also John Stones. I'm sure we'll touch on all of those players, but there was a big redemption arc of those players who have been frozen out before, really coming back to shine later in the season.
I like that. Let's start off. Let's head up to Anfield. The match of historic rivals, the Titans of the Premier League, most domestic titles between the two. A match soaked in history. Let me tell you, folks, this is not a match that history is going to remember. Liverpool 0, United 0. Ben, did you feel let down by this match as a United supporter?
No, I think I knew, or we knew what we were going to get, right? I think usually there's a spice to this match. This should have been one of the biggest rivalries in football, first versus second. There's not been that much riding on a game for a long, long time, but it certainly didn't look like that on the pitch. I think they've lost their spice over the years without big characters like Roy Keane, Gerrard, Mourinho really pouring gasoline on that fire. I think Liverpool were full of injuries, out of goal-scoring form. It was a match that had some quality moments, but really lacked cohesion for both teams.
Every time you bring up Roy Keane now, I think of Roy Kent. And I wonder if Roy Keane likes Roy Kent or hates Roy Kent. I can't decide.
Who is Roy Kent?
Roy Kent is the very obvious Roy Keane character from Ted Lasso, which is a great program. If you've not seen it yet, Jeff.
Okay.
Do you have Apple TV, Jeff?
I do not. I have like 25,000 different subscriptions, but that is not one of them.
Download it illegally. It's really worth the illegal download.
It is
so good.
I would even say it's for the free month. Just do the free month and bang out Ted Lasso. It's the only thing you need to watch on that, and it's very uplifting during some dark times. Jeff, as a neutral party, as you probably looked at this match and said, this is probably the match I want to clear out some time this weekend and bear down and watch. What was your sort of takeaways from this match from an enjoyment level?
Yeah, I was building this up in my mind for ages, and I was really excited about this game. Man United, Liverpool, and like what Ben said, in a game that means something, which it normally doesn't. And definitely for Man United recently, it's been about like damage limitation and saving face over their arch rivals. And it was getting to a point where it didn't even really feel like much of a rivalry anymore. So I was really excited for this one, with it being so tight at the top. But yeah, it was just one of those games, wasn't it? I thought both teams defended really well. There was some rock solid performances that kind of, and they really neutralized each other out, a bit like what Ben predicted before the game. I wasn't upset, but I was disappointed.
Yeah. I, like Ben, was not all that shocked that this is the scoreline. So, Ben, I'm going to read you some performance Manchester United from an offensive attacking scenario has done against the Big Six this year. Ben, against City, 0 goals. Against Arsenal, 0 goals. Against Chelsea, 0 goals. Against Liverpool, against Liverpool, 0 goals. And 1 goal against Spurs, but they also got beat 6-1. So, I mean, this is a way to win the title. Just, win the games that you're supposed to win and then kind of draw the other games. Ben, is this United's path to the title when everyone's mediocre? It's just beat up on the scrubs and hold out against the bullies.
It's interesting, right? Because they say the team that's going to win it is the team that just kind of like that Muhammad Ali takes the punches and then saves their energy to really take them down at the end. And I think United definitely have the depth of squad and the quality. But it's interesting about that kind of top six comparison. I think we definitely see a more pragmatic United. I honestly think there's some psychology there. The 6-1 result against Spurs had a massive effect on how we approach big games. I think a hammering could mean the end of the job. So it happened with Ralph Hasenhuttl, that 9-0 versus Leicester. That gets brought up all the time. I think United have found a way finally that works, and it's that counter-attack, sit back. That more pragmatism as well came from not being able to trust defence as well. And so he wanted that double pivot shield in front of the defenders to help back there as well. And honestly, in this season, with no pre-season, really congested fixtures, no time on the training field, I don't think they're able to try another system as well. I think there's a part of me that wishes they play a bit more expressive, a bit more open against big teams, especially when they're there for the taking. And honestly, on paper, Liverpool were there for the taking with their injuries and they're out of form. But I think he's found a system that works, and I don't think he has either the time, inclination, knowledge, or even the psychological trust to change or try playing another way.
Well, I will tell you what, as my analysis of this match is, I thought United were dire, but they had the better of the chances, which was interesting. I thought that Alisson was the man of the match. I thought that that save against Pogba was a lot harder than I think people made it out to be, because that ball was rocketed right at him. Pogba almost saved it. I mean, almost hit it too well, if that makes sense. If he would have scruffed at it a little bit, it would have gone left or right of Alisson. He just put his foot through the ball. I mean, I think that's the Pogba that we want to see in the box. But I thought Alisson was great in this match, and it makes me, when you don't have a good keeper, as Chelsea hasn't had one in a little bit, it really makes you like very longing when you get a good goalkeeping performance. I think Jeff, even watching Ben Foster last season, do so pretty well for Watford. It's like when you don't have a good one, it sticks out like a sore thumb how good Alisson can be at the pitch sometimes.
And also how like effortless he makes it, right? He doesn't seem exceptional, but he is unbelievably consistent.
Yeah, there is not a whole lot of mistakes in Alisson either. I don't know who I'd rather have, him or Ederson. I think probably Alisson because he is more, like you said, he's steadier. I think Ederson's a little flashier, can do a little bit more things, but Alisson's probably the top of the Premier League. Ben, do you agree with that?
Are they both Brazilian? Are they both contesting for that Brazilian spot?
I thought Ederson was Argentine, but I could be wrong.
No, they're both Brazilian.
They're both Brazilian. They're both what? What a spoilt for choice. And here we are deciding between Pickford and Henderson, who's not playing, and they're picking two of the best teams.
Trivia for you. Do you know who was in goal for the 7-1 thrashing against Germany and where he was playing for that German-Brazil match in the World Cup?
David Luiz.
No, I'll save you. So it was Julio Cesar, and he was actually at the time playing for, I believe, he was in the MLS, and I believe it was for Toronto. I believe. So wow. we had a Brazilian national team player playing for MLS. And this wasn't even MLS now, who's had some nice little transfer success stories, especially recently with like Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams. This is like MLS like 1.5, which was god awful. So little trivia for them there.
I will contest like the man of the match as well. So I think it was particularly hard to pick one because no one really shone during the game. It was definitely a game of phases as well. I think Liverpool won the first half. United were quite meek. United came back in the second half. I think both keepers made good saves as well. I know the Man United pick was definitely Luke Shaw, keeping Salah quiet, and he also supported attack. But I think you make just as convincing argument for Thiago. He had a really good game. So no one really, kind of like the game, everyone was kind of steady. No one really shone. And it was definitely a game of different phases.
I do like watching Thiago. He's on the left when he's on the when he's in the midfield next to TAA because it goes 666 across their jerseys. It's a nice little. I see it across. Nice little nice little picture for me. Jeff, what do we feel like coming out of this? Do we feel like Liverpool's the favorites to win the title still? Do we have a favorite to win the title still? Do we feel like Liverpool can pull this back? What are we feeling about the favorite coming out of this match as 1 versus 2?
I feel like obviously Liverpool were listening to me when I said a couple of weeks ago that the only team I see winning the league and who could put a run together, who's consistent enough, is Liverpool, and I see them winning by at least 10 points. That was my hot take. And that clearly put all the pressure on Liverpool when they heard that. And they've really struggled under that pressure of such weighty praise. I do not know anymore. I just can't read it. That at the time looked about right. Now, City look absolutely terrifying. And like no one else is anywhere near them. But, that's just over the past 2 weeks. It's so hard to say. What's it going to be like in another 2 weeks? And I think that, though, is really the story of the season. That it is every team's going to go through lots of short little patches. There's not going to be as much consistency as we'd expect normally. And who the heck knows? No idea. On current form, you'd have to say City. You'd have to, but yeah.
I think so. Probably City. Ben, you agree with that? Favorites to win the title?
I think so. I think they're the ones playing most consistently. I worry about a few things. I worry about what happens if Kevin De Bruyne, who's played every single game so far, if there's an injury to him, because he's really the metronome of that team. They do have a great defence, which is what you want to build a title around as well. What happens to Bruno? And then the big, if he gets injured, but the big thing is we've got the distraction of the Champions League coming. And so you'll have, not Man United anymore, but you have Chelsea, you'll have Liverpool, you'll have Man City, all going deeper or not in that competition, which is definitely going to hurt their progress in the Premiership, just because how many games there are. So I think that's the team that doesn't go as deep in that competition is probably in a better chance to win the league.
Well, two things. Number one, we can count on City crashing out before the semifinal because that's what Pep Guardiola does at Manchester City. The second thing is nice little how do we say, bridge to the next topic, because I can assure you that Chelsea will not be making a deep run into the Champions League. Let's go to Craven Cottage. And we'll kind of talk about, we recorded this podcast on Tuesday night, so we can sort of talk about the sort of macro of the Leicester game. So Fulham 0, Chelsea 1. I definitely watch the most Chelsea of any team. They're my club. I think the inflection point of this season, now that I think about it, looking back on it, is when Spain beat the ever-living tar out of Germany, which is weird because we just brought up Germany beating Brazil and being a kind of turning point in Brazilian soccer. That result, I think Timo Werner, watching him body language, I think he's a sensitive guy, and I don't think he has basically been a different shell of a player since that match. He missed some horrendous, he did miss horrendous chance as well, but just easy, if he controls the ball, he could lay Christian Pulisic in. And I hate to say this, I think Werner has the Torres. It's the Torres effect at Chelsea. Maybe the curse of Didier Drogba, that we cannot have a striker after Drogba that is very well. Costa was okay, but then Costa went crazy. But it's bad for Timo Werner, and I feel really bad watching him. Ben, I know you're Schadenfreude. I love watching Timo Werner play, but what's it like watching a player, obviously who has quality, but has zero confidence playing?
I think it's hard. How old is Timo Werner? What, 25, 23?
24. I think split the middle. I think he's 24.
So I think it's been half a season in a new team, moving countries when you're young, and also learning to play in a different league. And I think some players adapt quickly and some players are slower to adapt. I'm not sure the Chelsea system suits his game as much as the other one. So I think it's too late to say he's a bust. I think there's definitely more to come. And I think next season he's actually going to have an absolute rager for Chelsea. I think he just needs this season to embed. As frustrating as that might be.
So I think the good thing about him is he has physical traits that are not going to go away. Like, he still has blistering pace. He still rips a shot. So, he just got to stop turning the ball over and being confident. So at least he has the physical traits. Sometimes players come into the Premier League and they just don't have the physical traits. And you just clearly see that what they were trying is not going to work anymore. Like, he's still getting in areas to score goals. I guess we could talk about, they just got beat by Leicester 2-0. We're on Frank Lampard watch. Jeff, are you tipping closer to saying that Frank Lampard's got a serious problem? Because I feel like you were more of the holdout amongst us three, that Lampard needs the time and that it's way too early to rush. Have you seen anything in these past performances? Not really a great performance against a 10-man Fulham that's make you say, things might be bad at Chelsea.
Okay, so it comes in like two ways. There's two aspects, or at least two perspectives from which you can view this situation. You can view it in terms of like, what do I think should happen? What do I want to happen versus like what is likely to happen? So clearly we know that Roman Abramovich doesn't have that much patience. But will that be a bit different where we bear in mind like who this is? And rightly or wrongly, and also the fact of like what kind of year this is, versus like my personal belief is that like he should be given till the end of the season at least, regardless of what happens, unless he's going to get relegated, which isn't going to happen. So that's what I think. What is going to happen though? No idea. But I think it would be unfair. Like, would I be surprised if he got fired? No. So, but like,
let me interject. Let me interject. We're established. He's in the same thing. But I guess what I'm interested in was, we had that conversation last time to now. We've seen a couple matches. Has your maybe opinion of the performances changed at all, where you're saying like, this is not real good, right? Like, are you seeing any positive trends for Frank Lampard, or that if it were to get worse, then you would reverse your opinion? I guess I'm trying to say, has anything that you've watched between that opinion you stated a couple weeks ago and now, having watched them a little bit struggle? Has anything changed, or are you just steadfast?
Yeah.
He
No,
needs
definitely, it's definitely changed. And it's changed in terms of like their performances have gone over a bit of a cliff since we last had that conversation. I think now I am a little bit. I'm worried for them, and I do see that lack of confidence doesn't seem to just be manifested solely in Timo Werner. I see. I think there's. I think that's kind of stuff is contagious, and particularly when you're not the team as a whole isn't scoring many goals. You got a bit of a. Is it Pulisic? Is he a talisman? I guess he is a bit of a talisman. Starting on the bench a lot, so they definitely have issues. So in that sense, yeah, they are struggling, and I do worry a little bit. And are they underperforming? Hell yeah. But will that affect my opinion about the firing or hiring? No, it doesn't.
That's fair. Yeah, it's not great. I think the thing that's most disconcerting is we're about a year into it, and like, what is his style? Like, what imprint can you put on the Chelsea team that say like that's the definitive Chelsea style? Who has improved? Who can he point to that he's really improved in the squad? Not really much there. I was against hiring Frank because I don't want to fire Frank. I'll have said that from the very beginning. It's going to hurt when we fire him, but he's going to get fired. I don't know when it's going to occur, but knowing Roman, it's probably going to happen, and it's going to be sad.
Do you think there's much chance of him making it to the end of the season?
No.
In your opinion?
No, because I don't I don't also agree with his squad. Like, I don't know what he's really trying to achieve with his squad selection today. Like, starting Kovacic by himself as a holding midfielder against Leicester was insane. Like, Kovacic is not a good holding midfielder, so you're not going to shield, and he got torn apart. I can't see why Billy Gilmore's not playing. Callum Hudson-Odoi, even though he didn't perform as well, we were talking about that. He was struggling to get on the field. It seems like it is not a pure meritocracy at Chelsea right now. Like, the people that are performing aren't getting on the pitch. And then, he's given Timo Werner 10,000 different chances. And in a time when you need to get results and the team's losing, I don't know if that's the time where you need to be trying to force your big money signings onto the pitch. So I feel like he probably has a locker room problem. It's bad. It's just bad all the way around. I don't.
How much pressure do you think he might be under from the leadership within Chelsea, outside of the squad and the training facilities, in order to continue playing Timo Werner, considering that's like the big flagship signing?
A lot.
Last summer.
I mean, him and Kai Havertz, there's a lot. You've got to get that right? Like, the club has invested. I mean, Kai Havertz is more than Timo Werner, actually, if you want to be honest. I mean, Kai Havertz is a 21-year-old they signed for like 80 million, and he's like pretty consensus, like the best European prospect last summer. Like, this was supposed to be a Real Madrid Barcelona player that they got to Chelsea because of certain circumstances. You have to make that work. And I think when you sign them, you have to make that work. And I think so I think he's under a lot of pressure to do that. And I think that's fair. Right? Like, when you spend that kind of money, you know that you need to make it work. So that's why I think the next manager is going to maybe the number one thing is, how do you fix Kai Havertz and Timo Werner? That's going to be number one on the job description. So to answer your question, a lot, and I think it's fair. Ben, do you think that's fair when you spend that kind of money, that the manager should be sort of forced to try to figure out how to best integrate these players?
I think there's an expectation for improvement, and I think that's what's really hanging around Lampard's neck. From a personal opinion, I don't think he should be fired, only because he did enough last season to earn him time. And they're in a terrible run of form. This season may not be their season. They might fall outside of Champions League place, but I'd only fire Frank at the end of the season, because we've seen many managers. We had the same conversation about Ole, same conversation about Arteta, and now we're having this very similar. Both managers have turned it around. So I think we get into these. I was right there with you with Man United when they were that knee-jerk or that the performances suck. I can come up with 100 reasons why he's not right. But you've got to give him the course of the season to try and embed those players. I think we can't ignore as well that it's not just those two players that are underperforming. You brought up Pulisic earlier as well. He is a shadow. You've got a lot of quality in that team, but no one is really putting in a great performance apart from Mount. He's been
the problem with Pulisic. The problem with Pulisic, sorry to interrupt, the problem with Pulisic, he's like on the front cover of GQ this month or something like that. Looking lovely, by the way.
He looks like a snack. Looks like a snack.
Although, I don't know that the top part of his crown is like inflated, like it's like a balloon and someone's blown too much air into his head. I don't know what's happening.
He also has some sort of
GQ.
He has some sort of this? He has some sort of like harness around his neck, and I'm wondering he's doing some like Army Hammer, like some like torture sex stuff going on. I don't really know what that look is, but
also I think it's the Drake look. He looks like Drake with the haircut and the fringes now, right? That his fringe, that trim, and the fade. He looks like Drake.
How do you boys know what's on the front cover of GQ? Do you still get the magazine to your house?
I mean, no, but like Christian, you're not an American soccer fan, so like when Christian Pulisic poses like that, American soccer Twitter goes insane, right? Like that, like my Twitter melted when that came out, right?
Yeah.
Like American soccer Twitter is not a large contingent, but it is a very passionate contingent, and he is basically, I don't know. Put whatever he's the number one boy from Succession. He is the number one boy of American soccer Twitter. So when he's posing like that, it's gonna pop off on the timeline.
The only reason I know about it is that from time to time I dive headfirst into Soccer Circle Jerk on Reddit, and it's where I get my real gutter trending topics and discussions from. It's amazing.
All right. Well, I should have put Mason Mount on the front cover of GQ. He's the only one performing for Chelsea, but give him time.
Not when he's doing he's going back to the goatee, which is like he went towards it and then he got away from it. I was like, there you go, Mason. That goatee was a terrible look, and it's creeping back. So I don't know if he's GQ, but he is definitely the best Chelsea player by a wide margin. Enough of the how should I say, the underperforming side of London. Let's go to a side that has turned it around. Maybe the argument that Jeff and Ben for patience. Arsenal, I think Arsenal 3, Newcastle 0. Guys, Oba back on track. We got Ozil out. We're sending him to Turkey. Things are looking great for the Ars. Ben, how did you? I thought besides the goal, I thought Oba looked great in the match. He looked sort of imperious. What did you think of Oba's performance in that match?
I think flashback to the beginning of the season, Oba, when he controlled the match. It's interesting though that this turnaround as Arsenal has become through not playing their biggest stars, but playing their younger, more energetic players. Saka, I think more about Saka and Emil Rowe as well, those two players that have really added creativity and energy to a team as well. And I think a lot of that is this season, you just need energy in your team to kind of take you on to the next level. So rotation is important as well. But as much as it's about Obama, it's as much about Saka and Emil Rowe as well.
I totally agree. We've been calling out the Arsenal youth last week and this week. Emil Rowe made a nice little assist to Saka on, I think, on the second goal. Jeff, but I want to go back to this. Oba, great goal, did the front foot celebration, got me thinking, guys. And I was like, man, that would hurt. That would not be like my back, and front foot would never be my sort of celebration. Jeff, right now, given your current body constraints, if you scored a goal at Watford Stadium to win the FA Cup or Champions League or whatever your wildest dreams is, what would your go-to celebration be?
It certainly wouldn't be a front flip. That's for sure. What I would probably do, because I'm a bit of a hippie. I'd have some sort of like social justice comment or like fight or like kind of like something I want to raise awareness to on a t-shirt, and I'll get booked for it as well. So I'd rip it off and I'd have like Black Lives Matter on my shirt or something like that. But realistically, I think I would, if I was in, the thing is, if I'm in the Premier League and I'm scoring a goal, I'd probably cry, because that would be the greatest moment of my life. So it's hard to imagine what kind of celebration I'd have other than either offending people or embarrassing myself.
Ben, what would be your go-to celebration if you made it onto the pitch to Old Trafford, scored a goal?
I'm going to emulate one of the best Old Trafford goal celebrations I've ever seen. But Eric Cantona, he lobs the keeper and he just turns around, puffs out his chest and just kind of like, I am brilliant at football. Sometimes I amaze even myself. Look at me. It's the quintessential Cantona celebration. Yeah, that's it. The Grubby's doing a nice impression, but he really just like, whoa, sometimes I amaze even myself. It's such a good celebration.
So there's a cheeky celebration. I would like, because the way the most English stadium, if I scored it like towards the away fans behind the goal, I would love to a footballer to moon the away fans. I think that would be one of the funniest things that I have ever seen. So I kind of always
get arrested.
Yeah, but it'd be so worth it. It would be so funny. Would you get arrested for mooning somebody, showing a little butt? You might get a bottle or something.
Incitement of, you're inciting some sort of like violence, aren't you? I think with the home fans, if you do, I don't know, maybe you wouldn't get arrested.
I think you get a card for sure.
But it would be worth
you'd get sent off.
It would be worth. Sent off. Oh yeah, you would be sent off. But if I'm scoring one goal, I don't mind if I could. So that or what was that? I forgot who it was. The fake cocaine celebration. That one was
Robbie Fowler. Yeah.
Robbie Fowler. I always thought that was pretty good. So
so naughty.
I would do something pretty naughty. So either moon or fake cocaine celebration would be my like go-to.
Talking of mooning, and Robbie Fowler, Graham Lasso was set up to take a free kick. Do you remember this, Grubby? And Robbie Fowler turns and like wiggles his bum at Graham Lasso, because there was rumours that Graham Lasso was gay like the whole time he played football, only because one day they came into the changing room and Graham Lasso was there reading the newspaper, and it was The Guardian or something, like the most middle class newspaper. And from that, like 100% sure he's gay, blah blah blah. And Robbie Fowler did this really homophobic bum wiggle when trying to block the free kick.
I'm not sure that I should be celebrating that, but I'm more laughing at the like homophobia of the 90s, which is kind of like, it's not. I shouldn't probably be laughing at it, but it's just kind of ridiculous how stupid it was. But yeah,
isn't it weird that there's no there's not that many out football players?
Yeah, I do. I think it blows my mind. But if you, I think what I've heard though is that actually there are some who are out within their respective squads, but are not out in public. And it seems that there are two sides to it. There is talk of, obviously, there are certain concerns or fears about being respected within the squad, and we do hear that a lot. But I think from what I've heard, and I couldn't really quote it or tell you where I heard this from, but I did hear it, that I think a lot of players' issues or concerns with that are the fan reaction and abuse that they would get in the stadium.
Yeah, we have a stamp out racism. It's a shame that there isn't more of a anti-homophobic.
They wear the rainbow laces and rainbow captains, the pride laces and the pride captain band.
Yeah,
so they do that, but like, yeah, is it enough? Is there something more that can be done? Probably, but then it's you're in that shady area, aren't you? With like societal issue, feeding any issue that exists in society is going to manifest itself within football. And is it not only is it football's job, but is it even realistically possible for them to yes, take a lead, yes, send a message, but is the change going to come from within football? I don't know.
Yeah, I imagine that to be a lot of BS just for someone you like, just by who you like find attractive, having to deal with that. So I think imagine people just don't want to like be the first because it's going to be a lot of BS that you have to deal with,
They've
right?
had
Like,
some first, like some, but they've said it's held them back in their career, etc. So they wouldn't be the first, but maybe the first top
well,
this generation.
yeah, I think I'm more thinking like I always think about it. So there was a famous Notre Dame linebacker. You guys have never heard of this, but apparently he had a fake girlfriend that he like. This very wide story, but I always thought that he was just covering up that he was gay, right? Like, it. Anyways, and the we haven't had that in American sports, like a top athlete during his prime be like. Well, we've had it with women, right? So I'm not going to say no, but a male athlete, we've not had a top male athlete in the team sport be like, I'm gay. I just think it would invite so much just BS around your life that you don't want to like that you didn't sign up for, right?
Yeah.
Like, people tearing your life apart. What you like? Oh, this person shouldn't be a symbol because of X, Y, and Z. You're like, it's just who I love, right? It's not really so I think it has to take a special person who wants to take on that just like, it's going to be a big reaction, right? Maybe not when sort of the Zoom generation becomes, 40, 50, 60, 70, but it's going to be a thing, the first one that does it. And I feel like that's just holding people back. Like you said, like I think football locker rooms are probably more accepting now, but inviting that BS is probably not on a lot of people's idea of a fun time. Anyways, guys, what was a fun time for Manchester City 4, Crystal Palace 0. John Stones, again, just coming out of nowhere with a great goal. But I got to tell you, I noticed the great goal. What an awful thigh tattoo he has. And I thought, like, I was looking at it, it was like an old man. I was like, oh man, is this like his grandpa or is like his father, someone that's cancer? Am I an a-hole? It's like some guy from Barnsley that he looked up to and something like that. Is there anything more like unattractive than a thigh tattoo? If I could pick anywhere for a girl to have a tattoo, the last place would be the thigh, maybe the hamstring. I don't know.
He's got his ex-girlfriend on his other thigh as well.
Oh,
with the clock on her face. His tattoos are absolute garbage. He rivals Pete Davidson. He's got also Pennywise on his forearm as well. And they're absolute trash.
Hang on. So what does Pennywise mean? And also what is so bad about this tattoo of this man on his thigh? I haven't seen it.
It's just an old man on his thigh. It's like, it's just an old balding guy on his thigh. It's awful.
I know that won't get on the cover of GQ, obviously, but I think he can have an old ugly man on his thigh if that means something to him. That's what tattoos are about.
He came up through Barnsley, and this guy was like Mr. Barnsley, like an integral part of the club. And so because of that, where he came from, he got that on his thigh. And his ex-girlfriend's got a clock on her face over her mouth. And also Pennywise is the clown in It.
Oh, okay. Got it. Right. That is terrifying. It's an interesting mix.
And they're not good. They're trash. Absolute trash. He got 2 good goals as well.
Yeah. He's like a really attractive looking guy too. I think but his tattoos are just awful. Just real awful. Yeah, again, not a huge fan of thigh tats. Probably my least favorite tatted area. But yeah, 2 goals. The Stones were like what Ben was saying, out in the cold. I think he hadn't played in like 2 years, and now he forms. This is not actually hyperbole, but the best center back partnership in the Premier League with Diaz from Man City. I mean, we were, Jeff, predating you on the podcast, we literally read every single defender that Pep Guardiola has signed, the value, and just how terrible they were. So John Stones was on that list, and we had a good hearty laugh about how much they spent on John Stones. And yeah, if Pep Guardiola wants to send Crow to Cincinnati, Ohio, I'll eat it because that's what John Stones is doing right now.
I'm very proud and very happy with this because I am the only person in our fantasy Premier League with John Stones, and the reason I put him in is because this has been coming. Every game that he has played since his kind of comeback, if you want to call it that, he has had so many opportunities. He is in the box. He gets to the ball. They're clearly looking for him. And I was like, how is John Stones not scoring these goals? If he keeps doing this, something's got to drop. And it's happened. So one of the very few things that I saw and called and actually turned out to happen. So I was pretty proud of myself. But yeah, he's been brilliant.
And he scored in the FA Cup as well, like the week before. So he's on a bit of a run right now.
Ben, as the manager of the RAF 11, is John Stones in the RAF 11 minus tattoos, of course?
Absolutely. He might be in his own genre of Peaky Blinders recruits, and he'll be leading that.
Is he going to be in the Peaky Blinders movie? I'm hearing that there's going to be a movie to end it all.
I hope so. Although they've killed off a lot of favourites, so it's hard to watch now. As with any show that gets towards the end of the seasons, you lose a lot of favourites along the way.
Well, actually, so John Stones is probably the standout of that match, but I got to tell you, man, the Gundogan, I always struggle with his name. Gundogan has been on a tear lately. 4 goals in the last 6 games. He is on fire. And what do we think? I think my two favorite goals this weekend, and this is an excuse to talk about the other goal. The Gundogan goal, which I thought was brilliant, similar to the Chelsea goal, shifting the ball at the top of the box in traffic and just banging it into the corner. Or the Ndombele goal, the little flick that Ndombele had for the second goal for Spurs. Ben, what was your favorite of those 2 goals this weekend?
Well, I like that Gundogan meant it, because there's no way Ndombele meant that goal. He flicked it back post, and there's no way. He wasn't. Everyone's like, no, he looked first. He saw the keeper up. No, he was like, hit and hope that, try and hit that up in the air somewhere near the goal, and it went in far post. There's no way in the history of the world he could do that again. Whereas I think Gundogan could probably do that again. So I'll give it to Gundogan. Also, a shout out for Sterling's free kick as well.
Yeah.
Which you don't see many great free kicks apart from Ward-Prowse, but that free kick, who was like, I've got this is my range. I missed a penalty last week. An absolute peach of a free kick.
Jeff, what was your favorite, Gundogan or Ndombele?
Gundogan's, without a doubt. And he meant it. Yeah, he meant that goal, and it was he knew what he was doing. No, what I liked about it is that he created that yard of space, but the defender was still there, and it was like millimeters, that gap between like just getting it past the lunging defender. But he knew exactly what he was doing and completely in control. The perfect amount of curl, the perfect slot. It was beautiful goal. He's on fire, that play. I don't see how they can leave him out of the starting 11 at the moment. He's been brilliant.
He reminds me of in basketball, Steph Curry, who just somehow makes space for himself and just can shoot these outside shots. I'm always impressed by players who can make space in tight areas and get a shot off. I think. Have you
seen that video? Sorry, go on. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, have you seen the video of Steph Curry online? He shot in practice 105 3-pointers in a row without missing. 105.
Yeah, I mean he's
that's outrageous. I didn't know that was possible.
Well, I mean he's maybe more so than most athletes. He may not go down as the greatest athlete in his sport, but he's certainly changed his sport with his skill more so than maybe any athlete that I can think of. Like he's just revolutionized basketball by how well he can shoot. It's like, yeah, I can't really think of another athlete who has had such a big impact to the strategy of the way people play is Steph Curry and changing the dimensions of the court. So shout out to Steph Curry. Terrible tennis shoes though. If you look at like his Under Armour contract, just awful tennis shoes. Why he signed with Under Armour? Terrible idea.
Why?
Well, yeah, I mean, but he could get money from other places. Like sometimes the bag isn't worth signing. His first shoes really look like grandpa dad shoes. Like look up the Chef Curry 1s or the Chef Curry 2s. It's just, I mean, his whole brand is kind of being corny. Like as an athlete, he's like one of the cornier athletes. But anyways, let's go to winners of the week, guys. I am going to do this. The only thing that I can say positive about Chelsea, I'm going to lead this off this week, was First of all, Craven Cottage is a gym. I love Craven Cottage. I'm loving to see what they're doing with the stand, improving it. I love crowds with not crowds, grounds with a little character, right? So they're redoing Craven Cottage while the match is going on. So as the match ends, Thiago Silva calls out to a construction worker on the in the stadium, takes off his jersey and throws him his jersey in the stadium. Great, I love it. So Craven Cottage construction worker, you're my winner of the week for getting Thiago Silva jersey. Yes, that's my winner of the week. Ben, who is your winner of the week?
We talked about celebrations earlier, but I am really enjoying all these COVID socially distant celebrations that happened. It's so enjoyable. I think Madison's handshake was great. There's Antonio's swimming. So there's been a lot of good ones, but I hope that's something that continues after COVID.
By the way, you guys laughed at me my West Ham prediction about West Ham being in the top 5 or top 6. West Ham looks great, and Antonio's scoring again. So Miguel Antonio, my number one man crush outside of Chelsea this season. Just letting you know. Jeff, who's your winner of the week?
Well, actually, you know what? I've got the same thing written down as Ben right here. Those celebrations, but I can think of something else. But no, it is very cute. It's like they all get really excited, and then one person remembers and goes, whoa, and then they go, oh yes, okay, yes, and then they back off a bit. It's quite sweet. KDB, De Bruyne did it. He was like, although De Bruyne was doing it in a bit of a I don't know, a little bit of a headmaster kind of way. He wasn't doing it like, hey guys, chill. He was like, no, and very stern on his face. And I thought that was interesting. And Deeney took the role as well. It's like captains seem to be in charge of it. I think I saw not Henderson do it. I saw Deeney doing it. Not that you'd know about that because it's in some sort of terrible league in the depths of the football pyramid. But today Deeney was doing it after he scored his penalty, and he was like, calm down, guys, calm down. And everyone had a laugh about it. I like it. But now I've wasted my time on that. I cannot remember what I was going to say. Oh, yeah, no, John Stones. There we go. John Stones has scored more goals this season than he has conceded. How about that? That's unbelievable. I know we've talked about him already, but that is a stat that you don't hear very often. So, especially for a defender. So good for him. Good to have him back.
Should the triple captain him?
All right.
Jeff, we'll stay with you. We'll work backwards. Who is your loser of the week?
My loser of the week. It's got to be Frank Lampard. And I know that is probably the last thing you'd ever hear. Only because, not that he's done it. I don't know if he's done anything terrible. I just feel for him. I just the pressure is piling, and it already was piling. But I feel real bad. I have sympathy for Frank Lampard at the moment because I don't see where he's turning it around from. So yeah, that's it. I hope he improves. I hope things work out for him. But the poor lad is struggling.
I think it was a telling. So after the match, I was reading on Twitter. I'm sure each of you guys have certain journos on that you feel are a little bit more plugged into your club than not, and sort of try to read their reactions. And he was talking about after the match that whoever the next manager has to fix the Chelsea culture problem. And once I hear culture problem, I think if Frank Lampard is not, if anyone was supposed to succeed with a Chelsea culture, you would think that would be Frank Lampard's number one skill set. If his culture is being called into question, I don't really think he's going to be long for this world. But
what is their culture? So it feels like, from the outsider looking in, their culture problem is player power. That there's so many cliques in that dressing room. Frank used to be one of them, that they have a bigger say than the manager. And it's funny that he comes from that, so he should be able to recognise or at least know how to squash it.
I mean, yes, we did have 2 coups, the Antonio Conte coup and the Mourinho coup. So, yeah, I mean, it's fair is fair.
Wasn't Kepa a coup as well?
Yeah, and that chewing guy, the Penfold.
Yeah, Sarri. Yeah, Kepa and Sarri. That was a coup, yeah.
Yeah, I think that the hope was that Frank was going to, embed this real Chelsea youth ethos and build, and then sprinkle in some outsiders to really infuse that, Chelsea DNA, and that just hasn't worked. It's just clearly not working. So, anyways, enough about Frank Lampard. He is clearly the loser of the week. But Ben, any other losers of the week that you have?
RIP to productivity during this game week. So there's games all day Saturday, game days all Sunday, and then you're like, all right, during the week I'll go get some stuff done. Guess what? Games start 1:00 in the afternoon. So you really can get all your stuff done in the morning, because then after that you're screwed. It's 1:00 game. All right, then it's a 3:00 game. You're like, oh, I'm going to watch this. Then you eat dinner, then a bit of TV and it's bed, and nothing gets done because of all this football.
I will record that and send it to your superiors.
They know, or they tell me every day.
So I'm going to go off football for the loser of the week. And I don't feel like I'm bound by just football of the week. I have watched a new television program called Lupin. Are we aware of this on Netflix, fellas? So it's a
foreign language show, isn't it? Is
it
French?
It's like French Sherlock Holmes, I guess, like a classic tale modernized, but the guy's a robber instead of a cop. Anyways, some of the like logic leaps, like it's like a very prestige show, but some of the logic leaps they do to like pull off these crimes, I'm like, wait a second, that is completely like I'm not trying to like ruin the magic of it, but there are some logic leaps in that show that like drive me up the wall about how they pull off these crimes. So it's like one of the top 5 shows in the world. It's well acted, well shot, all that stuff. But some of the logic, just like my little dumb pea brain is like, wait a second, that can't work because of X, Y, and Z. But it is what it is. But it was very frustrating. My wife is getting very mad at me because in the middle of the program, I'm pausing and I'm like, wait a second, they can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. She's like, shut up, it's a show.
Does it have subtitles?
Yeah.
It is subtitled.
Yeah,
he's not going to watch anything with subtitles. It's game over there.
I am pro subtitles even in English shows.
Don't find yourself caught in a trap where you're watching a subtitled movie in the 90s in a football team in England, because you know what will happen. You get that Graham Lasso effect. So you don't want to get involved with that. It's terrible.
But I know, Ben, why you don't like subtitles. I like subtitles in movies.
I don't mind subtitles. Lee is against subtitles when she wants to relax in the evening, and then after a stressful day, and then reading, it's not something that she can plug into.
I just think there's contextual information sometimes that I miss that subtitles sometimes illuminate. So big guy on subtitles. All right, fellas, we're gonna do something quick to end the podcast that is new. Right, not going to highlight the next matches because there's a crazy amount of matches and it's hard to highlight what is this week, what is next week, as Ben has alluded to. We've had a lot of talk about third kits. Who was the Tottenham third kit particularly caught our eye this week is something that we enjoyed on the pod. So I wanted you to put your heads together. And these third kits are often, some fashion designer. Who would you have design your club's third kit to sort of make a splash and get the kids to wear on the third kit? Ben, who would you have design Manchester United's third kit?
This one I thought was so easy and so obvious, but I'm going to go with it anyway. So the perfect designers are the Beckhams. Posh, she knows fashion, so she's already got her own fashion lines. She can source it. She's probably got designers. Beckham wins Best Dressed Man every year, GQ Man of the Year since he's been born. I think those two together, and he knows the club, they're going to come up with the best third kit in the world.
Beckham hiring Phil Neville for Inter Miami. That was a shocker, but I love it. I love that. I think that's the most obvious answer in it, but it's the right answer, right?
Jobs for mates is what it is. It's not the right. It's a weird one. Jeff,
who would be designing the Watford third kit?
It would be, without a doubt, Hector Bellerin. Okay, so you don't need to be. You don't need to be. No, let me explain it. Let me explain this.
Please do.
You don't need to be. We know that all of these kits and special versions of like shoes, like a special version of like Kanye West doesn't design his shoes, right? He doesn't design his own shoes, but they're named after, what are they called?
Yeezys.
Yeezys. He doesn't design Yeezys. There's a team designing them, but yes, they're built around his style. So I get it. I like that. Hector Bellerin is the most stylish footballer in the Premier League, as far as I'm concerned. Have you seen his Instagram account? The man knows what he's doing. He knows how to dress, but also he tucks his shirt in, which I think is very, very important. So what I'd like to see him doing is designing a Watford kit. And instead of I don't want players to have the option to tuck their shirt in because they can't be trusted to tuck their own shirt in. So Bellerin's going to design a onesie for Watford. And then so that and everyone's going to look like they've got their shirts tucked in. It's going to be beautiful, and we'll all be playing like we're back in the 80s or on Bellerin's Instagram account.
I mean, if you're not having Elton John design your kit, what are you doing with your life?
So speaking, well, that was great. I never thought of Hector Bellerin. I'm happy I brought that up. That was a thing, a onesie Watford kit. That would be, that'd be great. So
He's so unattractive as well.
Yeah,
he's got that Adam Driver face. Just
yeah, he's
hard
cool,
to look at.
He's cool. Yeah.
I don't know. I think Adam Driver is pretty attractive, but it was probably his presence, right? Yeah. Okay. So for Chelsea, I think it's Guy Ritchie, noted Chelsea fan. But I'm throwing a little twist in here. I like the design team. I wanted to pair him back up with Madonna. So I want a Madonna, Guy Ritchie fusion Chelsea kit. I think that there would be some fabric missing in places. I don't think that they would be covering like the traditional sort of. There might be a hole somewhere, maybe a deep V. I don't know. It could be wild, but I want Madonna and Guy Ritchie to put their heads together and sort of, really let Madonna take the creative and sort of Guy Ritchie kind of, guide her into the Chelsea way. So that's what I want to do.
Guy Ritchie is quite sartorial in that he loves a good old country dress, like the big green Wellington boots, like the knit cap. I think he'd give everyone those flat knitted caps to wear on the field.
Yeah,
and that'd be great.
With a deep V, with Guy Ritchie at the top, Madonna at the bottom. I think we could go places there, guys. All right, well, we made it. We made it. We made it to the end of the podcast. We got another jam-packed week of football ahead of us, fellas. I'm looking forward to it. Chelsea might have a new manager. Leicester is on top of the league. It's a brave new world out there. It's throwing it back to like 2015, 2016. Chelsea in crisis, Leicester at the top of the league.
And I'm really pleased to see that everyone was drinking non-alcoholic drinks during this pod as well. So everyone's really keeping their January resolutions up.
I still haven't drank yet this year, and I feel amazing. I'm drinking sleepy time tea. Probably shouldn't be drinking sleepy time tea during the pod. Maybe I have to put it, save it for afterwards next time. But there you go.
Well, I will be switching from guns to missiles later this evening, so I will not be.
Oh wow!
I will not be continuing with this January thing. I don't need to. I like drinking. It's fine.
How late are you staying up tonight? It's 8:30 now. I'm thinking about bedtime.
No, Alabama has a basketball game in 30 minutes that's like fairly important. So I will watch that basketball game and then go to bed.
Yeah.
Big night. It is what it is. Yeah, living on the East Coast sucks. It sucks. East Coast time is terrible. There's nothing redeeming about it, minus if you watch football, which is the thing of the podcast. So maybe I shouldn't be so dang. But for everything else in life, East Coast time is terrible. Central time is the perfect time zone in America. It's perfect.
Eastern time is actually the perfect time to watch football anywhere in the world. It's even better than living in England.
Yes.
Don't you think? It's so much better watching games like when you wake up in the morning, still have the afternoon to yourself, lunchtime games, not staying up late. Oh, I love it.
Agreed. All right, fellas. Till next time, we're still an unnamed podcast. We threw some names out pre-pod, but I don't know. Maybe we're coalescing towards one. I don't know. We're trying.
I like perfect hat trick, but you want imperfect hat trick.
Well, perfect hat trick it's been taken, so we got to think of something that is net new.
Right. Well, that sucks.
Yeah, but hat trick 3, something with 3. I like 3-man midfield taken, but I don't know. Hat trick's a good one. So you guys keep noodling on it. We will eventually be named. But till next time, the unnamed podcast signs off.
Ciao, boys.
Good evening.
Ciao.
Bye.